If a dude says this to you, you run. At the moment, I kind of feel like Katniss in the Hunger Games. So I'm 19 years old, and when I was a teenager, okay, technically I'm still a teenager, but let's say when I was 14 or 15, I had my Harry Potter phase, I had my Greek mythology phase, I read everything by Riordan, I read the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare, so I was very deeply invested in YA fiction and mainly YA fantasy, but still, for some reason, I never read the two book series that are kind of milestones in the history of young adult fiction, these series being Twilight and The Hunger Games. And it wasn't like I didn't know these series existed. I knew these books were widely loved, I knew these books were hyped, but yeah, still I never read them, which now, as I'm an adult, think is a shame, because I mean, these books are classics and I feel like you kind of have to have read them, you know? And I'm also intrigued by them, which I wasn't when I was 14 or 15. I distinctly remember why I didn't read these books. So I feel like for Twilight, for me, it was, I think it's common knowledge that Twilight is basically a love story between this girl Bella and this vampire Edward, aka Cedric Diggory. And when I was 14 or 15, I tried to bring as much distance between me and the book that was only hinting at being a romance book. I had this weird and warped idea that anything involving romance was too girly and I'm not like other girls, and I prefer detective novels. I like to read books that are for boys because I'm not like other girls. And now I'm 19 and this year I started reading romance books and I loved it. I mean, like, romance can be so fun, it can be so cute, it can break your little heart. Okay, then why didn't I read The Hunger Games? I think firstly it was because I think we were all kind of familiar with the premise of The Hunger Games, that you have this dystopian country called Panem, and that from each district tributes are selected and they have to fight against each other and compete against each other in the so-called Hunger Games and kill each other. And I feel like this concept was too brutal and cruel and barbaric for me as a 14 or 15-year-old, which is kind of ridiculous because The Hunger Games being cruel is probably like the point of the whole book. And secondly, I think a teacher once said to me that she doesn't like The Hunger Games because it's written in first person, which I find ridiculous because, I mean, this narrative really helps you to identify with the main character as the reader, and I love first person narrative. So yeah, this was a very long introduction. Just to tell you that for this video I'm gonna be reading the first book in the Twilight series and the first book in the Hunger Games series for the first time in my life, and I'm gonna vlog my reading experience and tell you guys what I think about these books, if these books are worth the hype or were worth the hype. And yeah, I'm intrigued to see how this video is gonna go, because I think maybe I could be too old for these books, because I mean, I feel like the target audience, at least I think mainly for Twilight, is more, you know, 13 to 15, 16-year-old girls. And I mean, I'm 19, technically I'm an adult now, and my brain isn't the same as it was when I was 14 or 15. So probably the reading experience is gonna be different. So yeah, let's start with Twilight. A friend of mine was so nice to lend me her copy. Let's first quickly sum up what I already know about Twilight. I already talked about the basic plot of the novel in the intro, and I feel like also this is kind of common knowledge. And what else do I know? I heard a lot of people talking about Edward Cullen being kind of creepy and possessive and watching Bella while she sleeps. And I have to say, I involuntarily watched the first Twilight movie. I think it was 6 years ago. I don't remember much. I just remember that the atmosphere of the movie, that it was very gloomy and dark and cold, and that everyone was really pale. And I feel like this is something that the vampires and me have in common because I'm also very pale, so I think I would blend in quite well with the vampires. So yeah, this is what I know about Twilight. And I have to say, I mean, I already talked in the intro about the fact that I might be too old for this book. And I just read the blurb, and I already had this feeling that I'm too old for this, because the blurb starts with a quote from the book. I'm gonna read it to you. About 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Second, there was a part of him, and I didn't know how dominant that part might be, that thirsted for my blood. And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. I don't know why. I guess this is supposed to be romantic, but I just find it absolutely hilarious for some reason. I can't take this seriously. This sounds so pathetic. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, I should know. Start reading the book. Okay, so I'm now more than halfway in, and first of all, I've got to say, it's well written, it's easy to read, it definitely draws you in, so I feel like, you know, I'm intrigued to know how the story is going to continue. I like the world building, the atmosphere is created, you know, you have this town fogs where it rains almost every day, you have these beautifully, eerily, magically green forests. Also, reading this book, I'm reminded of how old this book is, because, you know, they don't have mobile phones, they are still using CD players, and I don't know, I just find this funny. But then I have to say, there is a lot of staring, a lot. And I'm not sure if I like it, because it has this feeling of obsession to it, which I think is unhealthy. And okay, but Edward and Bella do a lot of talking too, and getting to know each other, which I approve of. Okay, you know, this is good. And also, Bella is so, oh, I'm not like other girls. I'm a bookworm. I read books. I'm so ordinary. I'm nothing special, and I don't really fit in. Girl, like the whole school has a crush on you, which I also found a bit unrealistic. Then there were several points or several quotes of Edward the vampire where I thought, Bella, run as long as you still can. You know, they met up in the forest, and like suddenly Edward was like, am I not the perfect predator? As if you could fight me off, as if I couldn't outrun you. And I'm like, if a dude says this to you, you run as quickly as you can. I don't find this appealing, I don't find this sexy or whatever, I just find this scary. And you know, Bella, run. Especially, you know, I talked about this. I already knew that there would be scenes featured in which Edward is watching her sleep. But he is telling Bella that he basically broke into her house every night and watched her sleep. And you know what her reaction is? She literally goes like, oh, I'm so flattered. And you know, the only thing she's worried about is that he has heard her talking in her sleep with that. And she isn't, you know, what doesn't come to her mind is that Edward is literally a stalker. You know, this is a red flag, this is problematic. And Bella is just like, oh, I'm so in love with this guy. I'm irrevocably, unconditionally in love with this guy forever. Girl, you're 17, this is your first crush. I just like, this love story is like, it's so, I find it problematic. I can't find this cute, and I can't find this cute. It's just like, also how she's basically marveling at him, at Edward, and like
basically examining him like an object. Like, she grabs his palm and then like studies his veins and how he looks like, and like, this is strange. This is so strange. But I have to say, as of plot, you know, I'm more than 250 pages in. I think that's more than half actually. And it's like, up till now, it's basically just a love story. Now it has been... Oh, by the way, I think there was some foreshadowing where she said like, no one is gonna bite me, which I like, because, you know, biting and vampires, yeah. But like, not much has happened plot-wise. It was basically just a high school romance so far, but, you know, the dude is a vampire. But now I think it has been hinted at, you know, some possible conflict approaching. Okay, just checking in to say, this last third or quarter of the book, it's just so gripping. I am almost finished now, and I don't know, I love this last part of the book so far, because now it started to feel like a fantasy novel, like I love fantasy novels, because now, you know, the real danger started kicking in. It was not just anymore like Bella and Edward talking about how Edward could be dangerous. You know, now there was real danger there, and I love being introduced to the Cullen family, so Edward's family, and I like his siblings. Like, I like Alice and Jasper, they are so cool, and Esme, she's a queen, and Carlisle, and I just love it. And it's just like, I can't stop reading. Like, I had to force myself to like stop reading to record this video. I really like it. And I don't know, I only wanted to read the first book, but now I feel like maybe I should read the other ones too. But maybe not, but probably not for this video, but you know, now I'm intrigued.
I'm about to start reading The Hunger Games by Susan Collins, and I'm gonna read this as an ebook. And I'm really intrigued because I like Twilight, so I think that I might also like The Hunger Games now, but I'm not sure. So, what do I know? What do I already know about The Hunger Games? I mean, I've already talked about, you know, the premise of the book. There's definitely contest in which teenagers have to kill each other. And I know that there's a character called President Snow. I know that the main character is called Katniss Everdeen, and that she is very tough and independent, and that The Hunger Games is kind of one of the first books that really have this strong female main character who doesn't need a male love interest to save her, but can save herself. And I know that there's a love triangle, at least I think so, that one of the love interests is called Peter, but that Peter is written in a very odd manner. And yeah, I know that Katniss is kind of running around the forest with a bow, and that she's doing archery, and this is about it. Oh, and I also know that I think it was like that Katniss volunteered as a tribute because her little sister was actually chosen, and she wanted to protect her little sister, and then she volunteered as a tribute to represent her district in the Hunger Games. Yeah, but this was really it, so let's see how it goes.
Okay, so I'm looking for a nice reading spot at the moment to read The Hunger Games, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but I think I'm gonna head there to the woods, because basically the Hunger Games are taking place in the woods, you know. I don't know, at the moment I kind of feel like Katniss in the Hunger Games, you know, finding her way through the forest, searching for food and water and shelter, with the only exception that I wouldn't survive one day of the Hunger Games. I feel like I would be killed straight away because, you know, I can't run fast. I'm not strong. I know nothing about plants. I would be an easy target, really. So far, I'm really loving the Hunger Games. I don't understand why I didn't read them when I was like 14 or 15, because I feel like it's really what I would have also enjoyed at that age. Because, you know, at that age I read a lot of Riordan, you know, Percy Jackson, The Kane Chronicles, Magnus Chase, and in these books, you also have this. You also have these characters who are on a quest. You need to fight, and who are like trying to survive. And I mean, I really love this trope, and I mean, it's basically also this trope in the Hunger Games. I also really like the world building, so this idea that it takes place in this country of Panem, which is located where the United States of America used to be. You have these different districts, and I don't know, you have this contrast between, you know, this shiny, glamorous capital being technologically very advanced, you know. They do, you know, beauty surgery, they have very advanced treatments and ointments, and they have trains and cars and sophisticated camera technology and surveillance technology. And, you know, then you have these people living in the poorer districts, like Katniss living in District 12, I know, who are living a much simpler life. They don't go to the supermarket to buy their food. People like Katniss, they have to hunt rabbits. They have to go out into the forest and hunt, and then go on the market and trade the things they hunted for something else. Even though technically or technologically, it would be possible for them to live like we do today, but this lifestyle that we have today is only reserved for the people living in the capital. So I like this contrast, and I don't know, it just seems kind of plausible that this world is, you know, or it kind of seems plausible that this book is taking place in a fictional future of our world. You know, you can see I mean, you have so many things that are familiar from our world. You have the reality TV show concept, you have journalist cameras, TVs, you know, so that's why I think it's easy to access this world in the Hunger Games and to feel a connection to it. Yeah, I'm really loving it. I love how tough and independent Katniss is. I stan her. I like how she can think on her feet and how she basically doesn't need anyone in the world. How, I don't know, I just like her. I also like Peter, although it triggers me that his name is written with 2 E and an A at the end, because it just like, so, it's, I don't know, it's just so weird to me. I love Rue, the little girl that has also been picked to compete in the Hunger Games, and yeah, I'm really loving it so far. So by now I'm finished reading, and I thought I'd draw a quick conclusion here. So first of all, I'm really glad I decided to film this video because I really enjoyed both of the books, and yeah, I do get the hype, I do see what an impact a book like Twilight must have had on young readers when it first came out, because, you know, a romance between a vampire and an ordinary girl would have been something they've never really read about before. And yeah, I see how Twilight paved the way for other paranormal romances, and similarly, The Hunger Games was also one of the first dystopian YA novels. I also have to mention that I really liked
the writing style. I think I also preferred it to the writing style in Twilight, because in the Hunger Games you have this amazing use of symbols. You have the dandelions, the mockingjays, this theme of music that is appearing again and again in the book, and I just loved it, even though I have to say I'm not that used to the present tense being used in novels, so this was at times a bit weird for me to read. But anyway, I think yeah, I really liked the writing style. I liked how he talked about topics like class, injustice, the entertainment industry, reality TV, voyeurism. So I'd say that ultimately I prefer the Hunger Games to Twilight. I think both are good books, and I think both deserve their star on the YA Walk of Fame, if there was one. But still, I'd say I prefer the Hunger Games because I just find Twilight a bit problematic. I think I've ranted about it enough already in this video, but yeah, Edward is, for me, overstepping boundaries too often, and yeah, I think Twilight reads itself better at times when you read it like a comedy. So yeah, and while I'm not sure if I'm gonna read the sequel of Twilight, I'm pretty certain that I'm going to read the whole Hunger Games series. So yeah, this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did enjoy the video, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a wonderful week. Bye!